Is the MLB pitching market trending in a direction that will now be beneficial for the Cardinals? We'll talk about it today on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Happer. I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. We want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. I don't know if you know this, but we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube. We have passed the 11,000 subscriber mark, pushing our way to 12,000. Maybe all these trade rumors and stuff will get us there sooner rather than later. But if you haven't stopped by yet, please do so. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss a single episode, because this is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. First and foremost, want to welcome in our good buddy Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com. Tommy Tuesdays. All right, we're back.
Oh, yeah, we're on it.
How was your Thanksgiving, buddy? Everything go well?
Yeah, it was great. Went back to St. Louis, be with my family, spent a few days there. It was pretty relaxed. How was yours?
Not too shabby. Per usual, ate way too much because I don't know how about you in your household, but like, do they expect you to like eat 2, 3, 4 plates of food? Because I've got this I don't know, this legacy that I'm trying to live up to of uncles and grandfathers and stuff who just crush food. And I do a pretty good job, but like there's only so much of that stuff you can handle before it's like, I'm going to barf.
Yeah, I'm not quite at that level. My family is relatively like a one plate and then get any extras you want, specifics. Like if you want more turkey, you go back for just turkey, that kind of thing. But I'm a dessert guy, so I'll eat a full meal and then like 2 or 3 different types of desserts. I've got a sweet tooth that kills me probably.
Attaboy. Well, nothing to be ashamed about there, because we all like that stuff just as much as you do. We also like talking about the Cardinals, trade rumors, people they're going to sign. You know, it's that time of year where, you know, everything is kind of up in the air. Now, we know the direction that the Cardinals are going to go into this year is more about subtracting people as opposed to adding people, of course, through free agency. Now, some trades might come about. The big name that everybody's been talking about, and, you know, he's been stirring the pot on his own, is our third baseman, Nolan Arenado, who, yes, is still a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, but it appears, according to recent posts by him, that he's got his mind elsewhere, specifically with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm sure you've seen the posts already. I'll put them up there on the screen for you guys. There's one of them where he's got the song Dodger Blue playing in the background, and then he's got this one where you know, the person's talking about him being a future Dodger perhaps, and you know, you don't just post that up there because you just like, oh, that's fun, what a sweet person. No, there's got to be some meaning behind this, right? Or am I wrong, Thomas? Am I reading too much into this?
I think it'd be hilarious if he's just pranking all of us. He knows we're all scouring his social media. I turned on notifications for him, which I don't even have notifications for my wife on Instagram, I don't think. But now I've got Nolan Arenado just to see what happens. I think he might be playing a prank on us. The Dodgers seem like a team that he's always wanted to go to realistically. So it could be either way. It's just social media in the end, though, and I think a lot of people are just bored with the offseason at the moment, and this is what they're grasping at straws at the moment.
We certainly are. You know, when you come into this offseason and you're talking about a team that isn't going to be actively in the free agent market when it comes to any positions, really. You know, most of the stuff that they're going to be doing is just adding people from their own organization, bringing them up, putting them on the 40-man. That was the exciting news for the Cardinals. It's a little bit different this year, but obviously trading Nolan Arenado was something that feels, at least to me, benefits both sides. It makes a lot of sense. There are some hangups of why this is, you know, we're seeing these little hints from Nolan about where he might want to be. but it's probably something that's not going to happen for a little while. Got the winter meetings coming up on December the 9th, and, maybe we'll see some movement there. But, the big shoe has yet to drop, and we're talking about Juan Soto, which is one of the hangups of why a Nolan Arenado trade is, on the back burner for teams like the Yankees and like the Dodgers. Also, Alex Bregman is a name that, people who are trying to upgrade at the third base position, they're going to be interested in Alex Bregman, I'm sure, too. So those are a couple of things that probably have to take place first before anything with Nato goes down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all going to start with Soto, and then whoever doesn't get him, whether it be the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Red Sox, they're all going to be itching to suspend that money elsewhere. It could be free agency, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, Willie Adames even, and then it'll be Nolan Arenado from there. I've been reading it a little bit. Katie Wu and Derek Gould said that the winter meetings will be where we can expect some more news regarding Nolan Arenado, but until the other guys sign, I don't really see us getting any real concrete rumors or evidence of a trade.
Just to get your opinion on this, and this really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the Cardinals at all, but Juan Soto, if you had to predict where you think he's going to land, because I saw a report that the Toronto Blue Jays are ready to give up their firstborn. They don't care. They're going to spend money. This is, the final years for Bichette and Guerrero Jr. on their current deals. They're ready to go all in. Do you believe in that, or do you think he's going to stay in the States? And where would you suspect he'll land?
It seems like every week it's a new team that gets like these reports that he's signed. Red Sox a couple weeks ago, now it's Blue Jays. I think it's got to be the Mets. I mean, Steve Cohen's going to fork over whatever he can to get his guy, and he has the ability to do so. So if I had to put money down, it'd be the Mets right now who get Soto.
Imagine how mad Yankees fans are going to be if that took place. To have
Red Sox or the Mets, honestly, they'll be furious.
I wonder what would upset them more, Boston or the Mets. But I don't know, switching over to the other side of the city. Hey, I'm still in New York, but I'm not a Yankee anymore. I don't know. I wonder how that would go over. Might be really, really interesting. Well, something that has gotten interesting, and this does have a lot more to do with the Cardinals, is what's going on with the starting pitcher market right now, because you're starting to see a little bit of movement there. We're seeing some signings, and Thomas is going to give us some insight on what he thinks, what has happened so far, what that means for what the Cardinals have in their rotation right now, and it could mean that their values are trending up. We'll get into it next with Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com on Locked On Cardinals. There's not a whole lot of things better than going to a live sporting event. I think we can all agree on that, whether it is going to a baseball game, but obviously right now, hockey, basketball, football, all, very, very important in what's going on in the sports world. And with the Gametime app, you're going to be able to find tickets to all of your favorite sporting events, whether it's going to a Blues game or going to any of the college basketball games for Southern Illinois, SLU, Mizzou. You've got the Ambush. Wrestling fans, All Elite Wrestling, going to be in town on the 12th, and the Gametime app is going to hook you up with these killer last-minute deals. They've got the all-in prices, which I've always loved, because nothing is more annoying than seeing a price, you click it, you go to checkout, and then it's like 3 times more than that. You're like, what just happened? Upsets me. I don't like it. Gametime gives you the all-in price. It's going to give you views from your seat and their lowest price guarantee. And it's not just for sporting events. If you're a music fan like myself, a lot of great shows going to be in the St. Louis area. All-American Rejects, AWOL Nation, Franz Ferdinand, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Very cool show if you're in that holiday spirit. Justin Timberlake is going to be in town. All of this is coming up in December, and Gametime has got your hookup on tickets there with flash deals. It's so smart to go with the Gametime app. It takes all the guesswork out. It's brilliant. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Your feedback always welcome and encouraged. Thomas Govain from RedbirdBrands.com joining me. You can find him at Thomas Govain on Twitter X as well. And, if you got any ideas about a Nolan Arenado trade or any of the Cardinals players that might be available, feel free to send them our way, and we can discuss it here on Locked On Cardinals. So, the market for starting pitchers. We did see another reliever get taken today. Aroldis Chapman apparently signing with the Red Sox. So he's out of the division again, which is great because it feels like the Cardinals don't have a lot of success against him. But the starting pitcher market is something we want to talk about. Blake Snell obviously signs with the Dodgers, 5 years, $182 million, defers a bunch of it, blah, 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 blah. Frankie Montas, who was also in the division last year for two teams, Reds and the Brewers, agreed to a 2-year, $34 million deal with the Mets. Includes an opt-out after 2025. Matthew Boyd has signed a $29 million deal with the Cubs over 2 years. You had the Yusei Kikuchi signing with the Angels, 3 years, $63 million. That's an average annual value of $21 million. Obviously, we've still got some pretty big names out there, Thomas. Corbin Burns, Max Fried from the Braves. So there's still a lot to go through before we know exactly what the top of the market is. Blake Snell, obviously that was huge, but Burns and Fried could land as big or bigger deals just because they're a little bit younger than Blake Snell is already. So what are your thoughts on these signings, and how does that affect some of the names that the Cardinals could be shopping? Because, we've got an Erick Fedde that's just kind of sitting here. We got a Miles Mikolas just kind of sitting here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've always been surprised. So with Kikuchi, Montas, and Boyd, I was very surprised when I saw their AAVs. Kikuchi's getting $21 million. Montas is getting, 17 million, and then Boyd's getting almost 15 million on their average annual values. And we've got pitchers that are probably better and are closer, like cheaper at least. I mean, even if you look at Sonny Gray, who's not on the trade market for us, he's only $4 million more expensive than Kikuchi, and he has been significantly better for the last 3 years than Kikuchi was. So that's a win in my book. I know we're paying Gray more; it's backloaded. But on an average annual value basis, Gray's a much better pitcher for pretty much the exact same price. Mm-hmm. So these deals tell me a couple of things. One, it's good we're staying out of the free agent market. These contracts are ridiculous. And if we're trying to save money while being competitive, we can throw out Michael McGreevy and Gordon Graceffo and Andre Palante for a fraction of the price and get comparable results, which is great. That's part of the reset plan, at least. And then second, and more importantly, it tells me that our pitchers just got a lot more valuable on the trade market, especially Erick Fedde, Steven Matz, and even Miles Mikolas to an extent. Fedde is half the price, at least, of those three guys who just signed. And last year, he was significantly better than all three of them. Matz is a very interesting case study with Boyd. They've both been very hurt the last few years. When they've played, they've been fine, depending on their roles. But Steven Matz is owed $4 million less than Matthew Boyd is, so that his value went up. And even Miles Mikolas could fetch something. A lot of his value is in his ability to make starts while also being decent. His walk rate has dropped, but he's still a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, and then, you do have other names that are still out there. A guy that's kind of getting lost in all of this is a former Cardinal and Jack Flaherty, where, I feel like he's not getting talked about nearly enough considering how good he was with the Tigers and the Dodgers at the end of things last year. I mean, he was finally able to stay healthy, and he just kind of took it to that next level. This was the guy that the Cardinals thought they were going to get for years and years and years, and couldn't stay on the field, and it finally all clicked for him last year. Bet on himself with that deal that he signed with the Tigers, and it seems like he should be able to cash in, but you just don't hear his name being brought up as much as I've heard some other names. There's a Sean Manaea who is still out there on the market. Nick Pivetta is going to be out there. Nathan Eovaldi.
Severino. Luis Severino.
Severino is another one. Andrew Heaney is a guy that's had some success over the year. But this is something that when I see these prices and everything, and the more I look at it, the more and sure, maybe I'm got the Cardinal red goggles on here, but it just, to me, it makes so much sense that, like, dude, we cannot just keep doing this. This is ridiculous. And as much as I've made fun of, like, the Miles Mikolas contract over the last couple of years, you're starting to see guys who just are kind of average like Miles is, and they're making more than him now.
Yeah, it's almost become a market value contract. His ERA is terrible. Don't think of it in any other way, but he still has value to throw 180 innings a year and he's going to get the ball every fifth day. He's not going to give your team a chance to win every single time, but he had 16 quality starts last year. There's value in that. Like, he's not a valueless pitcher anymore, even if he is worth $18 million.
Yeah. One of the National League executives here said that I don't view either of these signings as having any wide-scale ripple effect. Both signings simply reinforce that starting pitching remains expensive on the free agent market, and that's obviously something that the Cardinals are trying to get away from. They are trying not to actively spend that much money on these things, especially, like you said, you can get similar results from younger guys like a Palante and like a Michael McGreevy. And, you've got other guys coming up through the systems. You got Teen Kentz and you got a Quinn Matthews, and you're hoping that they continue to be the guys you hope they will be prospect-wise and are able to pan out at the major league level. So for me, it makes a whole lot of sense. It blows my mind that some teams are still trying to I get why the Mets and these guys that just don't care about money, why they would just go out and buy people. But, like, watching the Angels sign Kikuchi, I was like, wait, what are you guys doing? They just
that question can be asked of that question can be asked of the Angels for the last half decade, probably.
Exactly. All right. But we're going to talk more about, what makes Steven Matz worth more. We brought up why Miles Mikolas is going to have, at least we think, somewhat of trade value here in a bit, but why Steven Matz might be worth even more here in just a few minutes. We'll have more with Thomas Gauvain coming up on Locked On Cardinals. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place flat bets on the NFL all in one place. Mentioned that I was at the Bengals and Steelers game on Sunday, and you could just sense the trend that things were going to be a very high-scoring game. There's going to be a lot of offense. Coming up on Thursday night, my Packers are taking on the Lions. I would suspect that there's going to be a decent amount of offense in that one. And when you've got a hunch like that and you got a feeling like that in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully bringing you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on all the teams during this offseason. Juan Soto sweepstakes. Where's Corbin Burns going to go? Max Fried, Willie Adames, all the big names. He's got you covered. He's got the whole league under his thumb there. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Once again, Thomas Gauvain from RedBirdRanch.com joining us here today. If you're watching on YouTube, my face is now unfrozen, which is good. Saw Christmas with the Cranks over the weekend again, Thomas, and there's that scene where he gets the Botox and his face is all frozen.
Yep.
That's what I look like on YouTube there for just a second. At least it wasn't one of those ugly faces that got paused on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Everything was standing still, so apologies for the YouTube crowd. For those of you listening to the audio, you have no idea what I'm talking about, so don't worry about it. We're talking about the pitchers that the Cardinals have at their disposal. If they're really going to reset things, I'm not expecting them to trade everybody, but obviously there's going to be some interest in some of these guys now when, teams around the league know that the Cardinals are trying to drop salary. So a guy like Mikolas at 17.6. Of course, he's got a no trade clause, so you got to think about that. But Steven Matz and Erick Fedde are extremely cheap considering what this market is looking like now. Erick Fedde, I think it's $7.5 million right now. And you mentioned that he's, significantly better than some of these pitchers that just signed some lucrative deals already. So with 1 year remaining, you're not on the hook for any long-term deals. That makes a lot of sense for people to come knocking on Mo and Chaim Bloom's door to see if they're, hey, you interested in moving Erick Fedde? If you, just your opinion, you're playing GM right now. Is Erick Fedde somebody you're actively trying to move, or do you think he's somebody you want to hang on to until the trade deadline?
Oh, gosh, it's tough. I'd probably try and trade him, especially right now. They've got the full year of control with him. They can get him in, whoever trades for him can get him in at spring training, as opposed to 3 months of a starting pitcher. You're getting a full 6-7 months of him. I think I'd try and trade Fedde right now. I don't know if his market will be any better at the trade deadline. I know urgency sometimes bumps up prices, but there's a lot of rental starting pitchers who will be available then. Now, Fedde is probably the best cheap tradable starting pitcher on the market.
And it kind of coincides with my feelings towards Ryan Housley, where people are like, well, won't he be worth a lot more at the deadline next year? And I'm like, that's a risk, man, because what if
injuries?
Yeah. What if he gets hurt? Because we know how things are with pitchers, man. That something can happen and boom, you're screwed. And he's likely going to regress a little bit from what happened last year. I pointed out some numbers in our last episode about how things haven't been trending great for Housley. The strikeout numbers are coming down a little bit. He's getting hit a little bit more. So, because he won this award and, it seems like he's, this record-setting guy for the Cardinals that, his trade value probably not going to be much higher than where it is now. So that's why it makes sense to try to move him this offseason and do the same thing where you're selling him. You're like, well, you get a whole year of him now instead of just a couple of months of him. Yeah. Steven Matz is another guy who it's been a tough go for him in a Cardinals uniform. The injuries constantly keep him on the sidelines. And, like we said, a couple of years ago, you're talking about, God, paying this guy $11 million a year. This is ridiculous. Now that's bargain basement money. What are some of the reasons why Steven Matz might be attractive to other teams looking for some help in their rotation?
He has been semi-healthy recently. I know 2023 was probably his best season with the Cardinals since they signed him. He threw over 100 innings that year. His ERA was pretty strong. The bulk of his value at this point is probably as a reliever. Out of the 197 innings he's thrown for the Cardinals since they signed him, he has a 2.43 ERA as a reliever in a portion of those innings, which is very strong, especially for a left-handed pitcher. He has not been as good as a starter, but he could still be a swing man, built up to throw 5 innings if they need him to, or they throw him in a bulk role in the bullpen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because that was why it was kind of like a trick question for you, because I was like, oh, the rotation, and that's not really where I feel his value is either. I think it's going to be as reliever, and as we're starting to see, the trend continues where if a pitcher goes 5 innings, give him a medal. That's amazing. All of Cardinal fans that, grew up or are aware of what Bob Gibson used to do, obviously are like, these guys.
The old way.
Are wimps. They don't know. This is ridiculous. This guy used to throw 180 pitches a game and 9 innings, and it's just not the way things are anymore. Your bullpen is becoming almost as important as your starter these days. And if you got a guy like a Steven Matz who can give you 2 innings, sometimes maybe even 3 if you got to stretch him or whatever, that's going to be pretty valuable. And that $11 million with the ability to be in your rotation if you need him to, if you need to make a spot start or something, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for some of these other teams to be interested in. And if the Cardinals can unload that contract and, bring in a guy maybe like a Zach Thompson to be in a similar role, I still don't know what his future is with the team, former first-round pick. But that's who he kind of reminds me of, is kind of like a Steven Matz type of person. So maybe that's something that they end up using him for? I don't know, but you got to clear spots to do these things. So I don't know. If you had to place a bet, Fedde, Mikolas, or Matz, in what order do you think they are more likely to get dealt during this offseason?
I think Matz is the most likely, followed by Fedde, and then Mikolas. You and I have talked about this before. Miles Mikolas is apparent no trade clause, which is baffling. That makes his deal pretty hard because I don't know who would want him, and B, I don't know if he would want to go to that team too. He seems to like St. Louis quite a bit. Fedde is pretty easy to move with his low price, but the Cardinals may want to hold on to him. Steven Matz is reasonably priced, reasonable talent, no trade clause. Teams could be interested, and the Cardinals seem interested in moving him. So he's probably the most likely, then Fedde, and Mikolas.
That makes sense. And the other side of it too is like, as much as we would like, let's go get some assets for him. I don't know if they have enough starting pitchers that can fill all these spots if they trade too many of them away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not sure. Like, so it's kind of like, I would love to see them start the season with Sonny and Fedde as kind of their 1-2s, and then go from there because Michael is probably not going to get dealt. But and then you've got those two other spots down there for Palante and McGreevy. But I'm wondering, like, where are they with other guys that they could move up into the starting rotation if there's so much interest in these guys where they're kind of like, dude, we got to kind of make a deal, don't we? We can't just sit on this. So I just don't know if they have enough guys who are ready to step up and do that, but maybe they do. Maybe a guy like a Zach Thompson becomes one of those guys. Again, I'm not sure what kind of role they're looking at with him so far, but and then of course in your back pocket, what if Quinn Matthews comes out in spring training and is awesome? What if he's, and I'm not, the only reason I'm going to say this is just because he's, the top talented guy, but what if he's kind of Paul Skeens awesome in spring training where like, it's like, how do you not bring this guy up? Again, we're not talking about a 20-year-old that you're worried about arm issues. You're talking about a guy who was in college. And if you can get something from him this year that excites people and excites your fan base and gives them a reason to come down to the ballpark, I feel like the Cardinals kind of got to do that, don't they?
Yeah, I think so too. They might want to hold on to him just for time manipulation because they don't plan on competing in 2025. If 26 through 2030 is their window that they're looking at, they want Quinn Matthews to be controllable throughout those years. I also think it's possible that they can trade starting pitchers for prospects and then trade Nolan Arenado for a starting pitcher as backfill.
Yeah.
Like they could work chess and puzzles and make all these things fall into place. It'll take time and we won't see it till February, but it's possible that all these things work together.
Yeah, and that's something that I brought up too, is that if a Nolan Arenado deal goes down and you're able to, how many starting pitchers are the Dodgers really going to need, especially if Sasaki, somebody that they think they're going to be able to land. You got with Snell and you got all these other guys. Maybe they'll be a little more lenient, was the word I used, with some of their starting pitching prospects because they got like 3 or 4 of them that are ready to roll. And I just keep going, if you really don't want Bobby Miller, we'll take it.
That's just about to say his name.
I would love to see it. I know he had a rough year last year after just absolutely annihilating the Cardinals, but there's just so much talent there. And it's like, if that's something maybe they're ready to punt on, cool, I'll take him. Or like, you have like Grove and you've got, there's like, there's like 4 or 5 of these guys that, hey, we could use them to fill some of these spots. So sucks that it's kind of the waiting game right now. These are the parts where you're like, all right, what's going to happen tomorrow? Let's go. But we're not there yet. We got to be, I know everybody hates this word. We're going to have to be patient, guys. We're going to have to be a little bit patient.
All right, John Mozeliak.
Exactly. So, but not because we want to be, because we got to wait for all these other guys to do their business first.
Right.
But, it should be entertaining when we get to the winter meetings, which is coming up on the 9th down in Dallas. So we will keep you posted on everything that's going on. Make sure you guys are following Thomas Govain at Thomas Govain on Twitter X. And, of course, read all of his work at redbirdrants.com. Anything new coming up that you want to tease our little audience with?
Yeah, I did a whole look at the Goldschmidt Arenado era in St. Louis and whether it was successful or not. That should go out in the next couple of days.
All right. Make sure you guys check it out at redbirdrants.com. Thomas, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll see you we'll see you again soon, okay?
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right, and thank you guys for joining us here on Locked On Cardinals and making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter X at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube, and help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.